Welcome to the virtual lunch, or today, the virtual breakfast. Today is Thursday, January 14th, and this is virtual lunch number 218. And this is part of our continuing series on digital transformation. Our guest today is Nick Whitehouse, who is the general manager of Onit's AI Center of Excellence and also the co-founder of McCarthy Finch, which is based in New Zealand, which Onit acquired back in November.
I started in television when you had to watch fixed broadcast times and all of that. And I went through a number of projects in television around digitizing broadcast, moving to on-demand services well before the likes of Netflix and everything like that. When we got into internet-based delivery, I got much closer with the telecommunications side, and I shifted into telecommunications, which was another industry that was going through massive transformation. Back when I joined, it was all about mobile. Fixed lines disappeared because nobody used them anymore. So there was enough a massive shift in that industry to kind of find different ways to make money. And so I got to do cool things like bringing in cloud and public Wi-Fi services and a whole bunch of cool kind of stuff like that, which was really, really interesting. And then connecting to different businesses across through telecommunications to work through their transformations. One big project I did was kind of my start of my legal ops career was our contract management. We had a business unit that was doing around $450 million a year. And in the space of 3 years, that dropped to about $280 million based on all of this change. So there was a big focus on, improving the sales cycle, reducing the cost of sale, making sure all of that was efficient. And part of that was going through and making sure that the configure price quote methodology was right for us, automating contracts, making sure that they were linked into the CRM, making sure that custom deals were being done and managed properly. So I actually got stuck into that. From there, I had a number of clients. One of them was a very large law firm who had a lot of problems themselves. And I got pulled into that business as their chief digital officer. I remember saying to the team, give me the lowest spec of everything you guys have got. I want to feel like a junior coming into this organization. And it was like going back to the 1970s. I just felt like my world had stopped. I've been traveling at 100 kilometers an hour or 100 miles an hour. And what I found was that in the law firm, technology had been a cost. It wasn't really respected or understood. Things were breaking, they weren't working. People weren't able to do the things that they needed to do. And they had accepted it. It was just part of how they were as a law firm. And I started a three-pronged project, which was about stabilizing their environment, optimizing it, and then innovating it. So that was our digital transformation. In about 18 months, we basically replaced everything in terms of technology. We funded it all by effectively the payback in terms of the tens of thousands of billable hours we were able to return to the law firm. We were able to fund. We did document automation. We worked on agile processes, bringing in better timekeeping processes, working through precedent and making sure that that was available to staff. Through that kind of journey, I won a bunch of awards. I became the emerging ICT leader in New Zealand at the time for kind of the outcomes that we achieved. And then we moved into innovation, and that was very much about this venture, McCarthy Finch, before it was purchased by Onit. Part of that was that innovation strategy, which was how could we take some bigger bets? How could we help the firm learn what the future of law was going to look like? And how could they de-risk and participate in that? And we did that. And I then jumped from a law firm into a AI startup. And that was even a bigger story kind of journey for the last just under 4 years. I have a sense of urgency about we got to do this, because what I've learned over the last, 2 decades of doing this stuff is that it takes 5, 6, 7 years for you to actually go, oh, we do need to change and we're going to have to do something about it. And then there's all that culture, the stuff that has to come along with it, and the infrastructure and the way that the market needs to go about it. So when you look at that time frame to actually change things, it is a 5, 6, 7 year thing. And what I saw back in 2015, 2014 was that AI was coming along. We had a lot more data being processed. And I could see that that was one of those ingredients that was going to help artificial intelligence actually become much more relevant. The reason why I got into law was I felt like we were right at the start of that journey and I could do something about it. And I see it as a 15 or 20-year mission in this industry to change it and to be able to be part of leading that change. Where you're starting to see transformation happening, and it's by hook or by crook, is in corporate in-house. And you've seen the legal ops kind of movement, which has just really picked up steam. The corporate in-house is definitely lagging behind. It's not a technology thing, right? It's a cultural thing and it's a business thing to kind of create change. It's a journey of creating credibility. Like if you bring a consultant in, you're not going to create that change as powerfully as you can if you've got somebody who is on the ground and has credibility in that organization. Then you've got to draw the picture, right? You've got to say, this is what 3, 4, 5 years looks like. And you've got to do that in an authentic way. Maybe this will happen and maybe it won't. And here are the pros and cons, right? But this is the investment thesis. This is the return you're going to get if you go down this path. And this is the benefit you're going to get. Then it's about storytelling and absolutely using other industry experience. There are other industries and there are other departments who have already been through this. So AI at the moment is about creating space for the legal teams. It's not going to completely automate your life. It's not this magic bullet. So understanding what your problem is and having somebody really passionate about what those problems are and being able to articulate, well, if we create this space, this is what we're going to do with that space. And it's about making sure that you bend your process a little bit to accommodate the technology, and the technology bends a little bit to accommodate that change. From a technology perspective, it's important to not be caught up in kind of all the hype around AI. And there is a little bit of stuff that we're going to have to go through as an industry around that AI piece. The Microsofts, the Googles, the Amazons, they're not going to solve this problem. They're going to acquire somebody who has solved this problem. And people who are kind of leaning on those models will only get you so far as a team and as an in-house. I do think you need to have a champion. You probably need to have somebody that you can have proper, credible conversations with in the organization as well as your partners. That's going to be kind of the next challenge. We're starting to see the hype disappear. But at the same time, you have people taking advantage of this bar that's been lowering, this false confidence that's created, oh, there's a lower bar, so we could just do like this in a less extraordinary way. So there are 1,000 successes and about 100 times of that and failures on that journey to that end goal, right? So we don't need to wait 15 years to start delivering a huge amount of value to clients now and to be a success in terms of being acquired. That's part of that journey. But when you're talking about industry change, that has a much bigger horizon. And we may not be the winner of that, but we definitely want to be throwing the punches to make it happen. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is like, yes, we're trying to do something in AI. Specifically for the legal industry, in my mind, it's about changing the industry. It's about access to justice. And you just need to look at the stats. And it's not right. Average cost of a court case is anywhere between $42,000 to $122,000. Average wage in America is $56,000. How do you start protecting your right? And how do you actually make sure that the rule of law is actually accessible to people? And that's part of that social piece to changing how an industry works. If you get in front of a GC, the GC's problem is that they're having to hold their budget for another year. Like, what are you going to do? That's your challenge at a GC level, right? Is how am I going to keep my people motivated? How I'm going to not lose them? How I'm going to now go to another level of even more work? If you just go in there with hype, you don't necessarily give everybody the tools they need to actually solve that problem. So part of this is about what is the methodology we can take to solve your problem? How can we work together to do that? Is there even resource available to do that? Are there quick wins? Let's identify those quick wins, create that space so we can do more of this. It's a much more nuanced conversation that comes around to like experience and solving those problems. Yeah, being aligned to first down to the 10th, down to the 20th priority in terms of what's going on in that world of your customer is really important, right? Because you need to know that you're fifth on that list and your business has to be set up to deal with being fifth on the list. You can't anticipate something like COVID. So you can't anticipate when that would happen, but you need to be very clear as to where you are on the priority list. And you either have to be working your way up that priority list or you're not going to be in business. We need to be partnering with other people who are on that priority list, building something out that actually solves people's problems.
Nick Whitehouse, everybody. Thanks again to Onit.